The fifth day of xenobiology training found the viewing hall filled with an energy that bordered on obsession. Every recruit had spent the night cycle discussing theories about human technology, and wild speculation filled the corridors of stations. Nexus 7, Zixstar arrived early to claim a front-row seat. Her crystalline form bright with anticipation as she waited to finally learn the secrets. Behind human predator control, Commander Velther entered carrying the largest collection of datapads yet seen, his multiple arms struggling to manage the extensive materials. His expression showed a mixture of fascination and bewilderment that had been growing stronger with each passing day. The information he was about to present clearly challenged everything he thought he knew about interspecies relationships. Today we examine the most comprehensive documentation yet provided by human authorities, Commander Velther announced, his voice carrying an undertone of excitement that was unusual for the normally professional instructor. The footage you are about to see may finally reveal the technological innovations that allow humans to achieve such remarkable predator integration. The holographic display activated with crystal clarity, showing the interior of what appeared to be a human dwelling. The recruits leaned forward expectantly, finally about to witness the advanced control systems that made human-predator coexistence possible. They expected to see computer terminals, energy field generators, or sophisticated monitoring equipment. Instead, they saw something that defied all expectations. A small human child lay peacefully on a soft surface that appeared to be designed for rest. The child's breathing was slow and regular, indicating the deep sleep state that all species require for biological restoration. But what made the recruits gasp in unison was what shared the sleeping space. Curled against the child's side was one of the wolf-like predators they had studied. Its powerful form relaxed in obvious contentment. The creature's head rested on the child's arm, and its rhythmic breathing matched that of its human companion. Both species appeared completely vulnerable, neither showing any sign of the vigilance that should accompany proximity to a natural enemy. Sleep cycle integration represents the ultimate demonstration of predator-controlled technology, Commander Velther observed, though his voice betrayed uncertainty about his own analysis. The willingness to become completely vulnerable in the presence of an apex predator suggests either absolute confidence in technological safeguards or unprecedented trust levels. Clickter's clicking sounds had become so rapid they merged into a continuous hum of confusion. His species never slept, without designated sentries watching for predators, and the concept of voluntary vulnerability was beyond his comprehension. His compound eyes studied every detail of the scene, searching for hidden control devices or protective systems. The display shifted to show more scenes of the same impossible behavior. Human families sleeping peacefully while multiple predator species shared their dwellings. Some of the wolf-like creatures had claimed their own sleeping areas within human homes, while others preferred to maintain physical contact with their human companions throughout the night cycle. Multi-predator household integration appears standard, Commander Velther continued. The absence of territorial conflicts between different predator species suggests behavioral modification technology capable of overriding millions of years of evolutionary programming. The next scene showed something even more remarkable. A human woman named Amy was engaged in what appeared to be a cooperative activity with one of the massive horse creatures. But this was not the simple partnership they had observed before. The woman and horse were performing complex movements together, each responding to subtle signals from the other in a display of coordination that suggested deep mental connection. Advanced neural interface protocols, Commander Velther announced, with growing excitement. The synchronization between human and predator movements indicates direct brain-to-brain communication systems. This represents technology centuries ahead of current coalition capabilities. Bronchiello's leaves rustled with amazement as he watched the woman and horse move as if they shared a single consciousness. His plant-based senses could detect the emotional states of both participants, and the harmony between their mental patterns was unlike anything he had ever observed. The connection transcended simple cooperation and approached genuine mental fusion. The scene continued as Amy guided the horse through increasingly complex maneuvers without any visible control devices or communication equipment. The massive creature responded to gestures so subtle that most recruits could not detect them, suggesting either incredibly advanced sensor technology or an almost telepathic level of understanding. Communication protocols appear entirely non-technological, Commander Velther noted, his voice filled with growing bewilderment. Signal transmission occurs through methods that our sensors cannot detect or analyze. The display showed more examples of the same mysterious communication. Humans working with cattle through gestures and vocal sounds that seemed impossibly simple for the complex behaviors they produced. Children directing the smaller predators through play activities, using nothing more than movement and voice patterns. Splashara breathing apparatus bubbled frantically as she watched a human child, teaching one of the wolf-like creatures to respond to specific vocal commands. Her aquatic species used complex chemical signals for communication, and the idea that simple sound patterns could convey such detailed information was revolutionary. The most astounding footage came next, showing scenes that challenged the recruits' understanding of predator psychology itself. Human children were engaged in physical play with the wolf-like creatures, activities that involved mock combat and pursuit behaviors. But instead of triggering predatory responses, these interactions seemed to strengthen the bonds between species. Predators would chase the children with obvious restraint, their powerful jaws capable of inflicting terrible damage, but never doing more than gentle contact. When children fell during play, the creatures would immediately stop their pursuit and approach with concerned behaviors, using their tongues to investigate for injuries. Play behavior integration suggests complete override of predatory hunting responses, Commander Velther observed. The technology required to suppress instinctive attack behaviors while maintaining engagement would require neural modification. At the genetic level, Zixtara's crystalline form flickered with confusion as she watched scenes that violated every principle of predator behavior she had ever learned. The creatures were not just tolerating human contact, they were actively seeking it out, initiating play behaviors and showing obvious disappointment when humans ended their interactions. The footage continued with scenes of predators displaying what could only be described as emotional attachment to their human companions. Wolf-like creatures showing distress when separated from specific humans, exhibiting reunion behaviors that suggested genuine affection rather than simple conditioning. The most powerful scene showed a human child who appeared to be experiencing distress, the kind of emotional state that often triggered predatory interest in vulnerable individuals. But instead of exploiting this weakness, the wolf-like creature approached with obvious concern, providing physical comfort through gentle contact and remaining close until the child's emotional state improved. Protective behavior protocols indicate complete reversal of predatory programming, Commander Velther announced, his voice now filled with awe rather than analytical detachment. These creatures have been modified to protect rather than prey upon vulnerable humans. The final scenes of the day showed human communities where the integration between species had reached levels that seemed to transcend biological boundaries. Predators participated in human social activities as full members of family units. Children grew up with animal companions that served as protectors, playmates, and emotional support systems. As the display began to fade, showing a sunset scene where humans and various predator species gathered together in peaceful coexistence. The room fell into a silence so complete that the station's ventilation systems seemed loud in comparison. The recruits sat motionless, their minds struggling to process what they had witnessed. Then, from the back of the room, a sound so soft it was barely audible broke the silence. It was a whisper, spoken in the delicate voice of Pixel, a young Zephyrian whose luminous eyes had grown wide with recognition during the day's presentations. I had that as a pet. The words hung in the air like a gravitational anomaly, their implications rippling through the assembled minds with the force of a revelation that would change everything. Every head turned toward the small Zephyrian, whose bioluminescent patterns flickered with the emotional intensity of someone who had just realized a truth that challenged the foundations of galactic civilization. Commander Velther's multiple arms froze in the middle of organizing his data pads, his expression shifting from confusion to something approaching alarm as the significance of those 5 simple words began to penetrate his consciousness. In that moment of perfect silence, the entire understanding of human technology, predator, control, and interspecies relationships balanced on the edge of a revelation that would reshape everything. The 4th day brought an atmosphere of electric anticipation to the viewing hall as recruits filed in with expressions of barely contained curiosity. Zixstar noticed that today even the normally cautious species had chosen seats closer to the front, their scientific minds overriding their survival instincts. The mystery of human technology had consumed their thoughts for an entire night cycle. Commander Velther entered the room carrying an unusually large number of data pads, his multiple arms working efficiently to organize what appeared to be an extensive collection of materials. His expression showed the same confusion that had been growing over the past few days, as if the information he was about to present challenged his own understanding of the universe. Today we examine extended documentation of human-predator relationships, Commander Velther announced, though his voice lacked the confident authority it had carried in previous sessions. The Coalition Science Division has provided additional footage that may help us understand the techniques humans use to control these dangerous creatures. The holographic display activated with images that immediately captured the recruit's attention. A human female named Lisa stood in an open field beside a massive 4-legged creature that towered over her small frame. The animal's powerful muscles rippled beneath its dark coat as it moved, each step carrying a force to crush bones. Its head alone was larger than the human's entire torso. This creature is classified as a horse, Commander Velther read from his notes. Adult specimens can weigh over 700 kilograms and possess kick forces exceeding 8,000 newtons. A single strike from this creature's limbs could easily kill a human. The recruits watched in fascination as Lisa approached the massive beast without any visible protective equipment or defensive technology. Her movements were calm and deliberate, showing no sign of the fear that should have accompanied such a dangerous encounter. She reached out and placed her small hand on the creature's enormous neck. The horse's response defied everything the recruits thought they knew about predator behavior. Instead of attacking this obviously vulnerable target, the massive creature lowered its head and gently nuzzled Lisa's shoulder. The interaction suggested not just tolerance but genuine affection between 2 species that should have been natural enemies. Note the absence of control devices, Commander Velther continued, his voice betraying his own amazement. No energy fields, no neural inhibitors, no chemical restraints. The human appears to be using purely behavioral techniques to maintain control over this apex predator. Clictor's compound eyes tracked every detail of the scene as Lisa led the horse across the field, using only a simple rope attached to its head. His analytical mind cataloged the creature's responses, looking for signs of the advanced technology that must be hidden somewhere in the interaction. But every scan revealed nothing beyond basic materials and simple techniques. The scene shifted to show something even more incredible. Small human children, their bodies fragile and vulnerable, were climbing onto the backs of these massive creatures. The horses stood perfectly still as the children positioned themselves, then began moving with careful precision to ensure their tiny passengers remained safe. The creatures appeared to have been programmed with protective behaviors toward human offspring, Commander Velther observed, though uncertainty colored his voice. This level of behavioral modification would require technology far beyond current Coalition capabilities. Splashara's breathing apparatus bubbled frantically as she watched the children riding these massive predators through open countryside. Her aquatic mind struggled to comprehend how humans had convinced creatures capable of crushing them to instead carry them safely across great distances. The cooperation between species seemed to violate every natural law she had ever learned. The display showed more impossible scenes. Humans working alongside horses to accomplish tasks that neither species could manage alone. The massive creatures pulling loads that would require mechanical equipment for other species to move. Humans guiding their four-legged partners through complex maneuvers that suggested deep communication and understanding. Agricultural applications appear extensive, Commander Velther noted as he watched humans and horses working together to cultivate vast fields. The integration of predator assistance into food production systems represents a revolutionary approach to resource management. The next footage showed an entirely different environment where even larger creatures moved with surprising gentleness. Around human settlements, massive bovines with sharp horns and crushing weight grazed peacefully while human children played nearby. These creatures could have devastated the human population with minimal effort, yet they showed the same protective behaviors as the horses. An elderly human named Carl sat peacefully beside one of these enormous creatures, his weathered hands moving gently across its hide as it continued grazing. The beast's massive head turned toward him occasionally, its large eyes showing what could only be described as contentment. The scene radiated an atmosphere of trust that transcended species boundaries. Cattle integration appears complete, Commander Velther read from his increasingly confusing notes. These creatures provide resources to humans while receiving protection and care in return. The symbiotic relationship suggests a level of interspecies cooperation that exceeds anything in our current understanding. Broncello's leaves rustled with amazement as he watched humans and cattle working together in what appeared to be a mutually beneficial arrangement. His plant-based consciousness could sense the emotional states of both species, and everything indicated genuine partnership rather than technological control. The most astounding footage came next, showing human settlements where dozens of different predator species coexisted in apparent harmony. Horses shared space with cattle, while smaller four-legged creatures that resembled miniature wolves moved freely among them. None of the animals showed signs of territorial aggression or predatory behavior toward each other or the humans. Multi-species integration protocols appear standard in human settlements, Commander Velther announced, though his voice suggested he was struggling to believe his own words. The technology required to suppress natural predatory instincts across multiple species simultaneously would represent the most advanced behavioral modification system ever developed. The scene showed human families engaged in daily activities while surrounded by creatures that should have been deadly threats. Children played with the smaller predators while adults worked alongside the larger ones. The atmosphere was one of complete normalcy, as if living with apex predators was the most natural thing in the universe. Zixtara's crystalline form flickered with confusion as she watched a human child sharing food with one of the smaller wolf-like creatures. Her species had evolved elaborate feeding protocols to avoid attracting predators, yet these humans were voluntarily providing sustenance to carnivorous hunters. The reversal of natural order was beyond her comprehension. The footage continued, with scenes of humans caring for sick or injured predators, using their advanced medical technology to heal creatures that could easily destroy them. The predators accepted this treatment passively, showing trust levels that suggested deep emotional bonds rather than simple technological control. Medical intervention protocols indicate long-term investment in predator welfare, Commander Velther observed. Humans appear to view these creatures as valuable assets worthy of significant resource allocation rather than threats to be eliminated or controlled. The most revealing scene showed a human settlement during what appeared to be a natural disaster. Storm systems threatened the area with dangerous weather patterns, and the recruits expected to see humans abandon their predator control systems to focus on their own survival. Instead, they watched humans working frantically to ensure their animal partners reached safety first. Humans led horses to shelter before securing their own protection. They carried smaller predators to safety while risking exposure to dangerous weather. The priority given to predator welfare over human Safety suggested emotional attachment that transcended any technological control system. Emergency protocols show predator protection as primary concern, Commander Velther noted, his voice filled with growing amazement. This behavior pattern suggests the relationship extends beyond simple utilitarian cooperation into something approaching kinship bonds. The final footage of the day showed human communities celebrating what appeared to be cultural festivals, with predators participating as honored guests rather than controlled assets. Horses wore decorative coverings while humans danced around them. Cattle received special foods as part of ceremonial activities. The smaller predators were carried and petted with obvious affection. Cultural integration appears complete, Commander Velther concluded as the display faded. Humans have not simply controlled their world's predators, they have incorporated them into their social structures as valued members of their communities. The room fell silent as recruits processed the implications of what they had witnessed. These were not demonstrations of advanced technology or sophisticated control systems. These were examples of relationships that transcended the normal boundaries between species. The third day of xenobiology training found the recruits arriving earlier than usual, their curiosity about human defensive strategies overriding their fear of what they might learn. Zixtara had spent the previous night researching military tactics used by other species to deal with apex predators, and she was eager to see how humans had solved the problem of living alongside such dangerous creatures. Commander Velther entered the room carrying several data pads, his expression suggesting he had spent considerable time reviewing the materials for today's lesson. His multiple arms arranged the teaching equipment with more care than usual, as if he were handling something particularly important or fragile. Today we examine human defensive protocols, Commander Velther announced, his voice carrying the same professional tone as always. The Coalition Military Command has provided us with extensive documentation of human methods for dealing with their world's apex predators. What you are about to see represents some of the most advanced survival strategies we have encountered. The holographic display activated, showing the same blue and green world they had studied yesterday. But today the view zoomed in to show human settlements, cities that sprawled across continents with no obvious defensive barriers. The recruits leaned forward in their seats, expecting to see massive walls, energy shields, or automated defense systems. Human population centers show remarkable distribution patterns, Commander Velther continued. Unlike most coalition species, humans have established permanent settlements in environments where apex predators are actively hunting. This suggests either exceptional defensive technology or unprecedented courage. Splashara's breathing apparatus bubbled with anticipation as she studied the coastal cities that bordered the oceans where those massive sharks lived. Her species had built their civilization in the deepest ocean trenches, as far from surface predators as possible. The idea of building cities where those monsters could reach them seemed like madness. The display shifted to show what appeared to be a human documentary, the kind of educational material that coalition species used to train their military personnel. The recruits expected to see weapons demonstrations, tactical formations, or evacuation procedures. Instead, they found themselves watching something completely different. A small human child, no more than 6 Earth years old according to the age markers, was playing in shallow water near what appeared to be a beach. The child's laughter echoed through the room's audio system as small waves lapped at tiny feet. But what made the recruits gasp was what swam in the water nearby. A large, marine creature moved through the water with obvious intelligence, its sleek body cutting through the waves as it approached the child. The creature's distinctive dorsal fin and elongated snout marked it as one of the aquatic predators they had studied, though smaller than the massive sharks. The recruits waited for the child to scream, for adults to come running for defensive systems to activate. Instead, the child reached out toward the creature with obvious delight. The marine animal responded by swimming closer, allowing the small human to touch its skin. The creature's behavior suggested not just tolerance but actual enjoyment of the contact. "This appears to be a dolphin," Commander Velther read from his notes, his voice betraying confusion. Genetic analysis confirms it is indeed a predatory species with advanced intelligence and hunting capabilities. However, the interaction pattern suggests. He paused, studying his datapad more carefully. This cannot be correct. The scene continued as the child and dolphin played together, the marine predator actually supporting the small human as they moved through the water. Other humans watched from the beach, but instead of showing fear or concern, they appeared relaxed and happy. Some were even recording the interaction with their devices. Clickter's clicking sounds had stopped entirely, a sign of extreme confusion in his species. His compound eyes tracked the scene with mechanical precision, but his brain could not process what he was seeing. Predators did not play with potential prey. This violated every evolutionary principle he had ever learned. The display shifted to another scene that made the recruits question their understanding of reality itself. A human family was engaged in what appeared to be a recreational activity in a large open space. A male human named Jake stood in the center of the area, holding a long wooden object in his hands. Near him was a large, four-legged creature that the recruits immediately recognized as being closely related to the wolf packs they had studied. The creature had the same powerful build, the same alert ears, the same predatory stance. But something was different about his behavior. Jake raised the wooden object and threw it across the open space. Instead of attacking, instead of displaying territorial aggression, the wolf-like creature bounded after the thrown object with obvious joy. Its tail moved in a rhythmic pattern that suggested excitement rather than predatory focus. This appears to be a domestic dog, Commander Velther read slowly, his voice filled with disbelief. DNA analysis confirms 99% genetic similarity to wolves. However, the behavioral patterns are completely inconsistent with known predatory responses. The creature retrieved the wooden object and returned to Jake, its mouth open, in what looked like a threatening display. But instead of attacking, the animal dropped the object at Jake's feet and assumed a play position, its front legs lowered and its tail continuing that rhythmic movement. Jake reached down and touched the creature's head, his fingers running through its fur. The animal's response was to move closer, pressing against the human's leg with obvious affection. A soft sound emerged from the creature's throat, not the threatening growl of a predator, but something that sounded almost like contentment. Audio analysis suggests this is a sound called purring. Commander Velther continued, though his voice indicated he was reading information he could barely believe. It appears to be a vocalization associated with pleasure and bonding, not territorial marking or threat display. The scene continued as other humans joined the activity. Small children ran toward the wolf-like creature without fear, their high-pitched vocalizations mixing with the animal's own sounds. The predator's response was to lower itself to their level, allowing the children to touch its fur and even climb on its back. Branch ellows, leaves rustled with complete bewilderment as he watched the interaction. His plant-like senses could detect the creature's emotional state through chemical signatures, and everything indicated genuine affection rather than predatory patience. The animal was not waiting for an opportunity to attack. It was actually enjoying the contact with the humans. The display showed more scenes of the same impossible interactions. Humans of all ages engaging with creatures that should have been their natural enemies. The wolf-like animals lived in human dwellings, slept in human sleeping areas, and even shared human food. Some of the creatures wore decorative objects around their necks, suggesting they were valued rather than feared. Coalition xenobiology experts have confirmed these are not different species. Commander Velther announced, his voice strained with the effort to accept what he was reading. These creatures possess all the physical characteristics of apex predators. Enhanced reflexes, powerful muscles, natural weapons, pack hunting instincts. Yet they display behavioral patterns that suggest complete integration with human society. The most shocking scene appeared next, showing a human settlement at night. The recruits expected to see defensive measures, guards watching for predators, or at least secure barriers. Instead, they saw humans sleeping peacefully in their dwellings, while the wolf-like creatures slept beside them, often in the same sleeping areas. Zixtara's crystalline form had dimmed to barely visible levels as she struggled to process this information. Her species had evolved elaborate crystal barriers specifically to keep predators at bay during their rest cycles. The idea of voluntarily sleeping next to an apex predator was beyond her comprehension. The implications of this footage are staggering, Commander Velther continued. If humans have developed technology capable of controlling predator behavior, to this degree, their military applications would be revolutionary. The ability to turn apex predators into allies would change the nature of warfare itself. The room fell silent as the recruits tried to understand what they were seeing. The humans were not just surviving alongside their world's predators. They were living with them as if they were members of their own species. The wolf-like creatures showed loyalty, affection, and even protective behavior toward their human companions. Splashara's aquatic mind struggled with the concept as she watched. A scene of humans and dolphins working together to accomplish tasks in the water. Her species had spent millions of years avoiding their ocean's predators, and the idea of cooperating with them was revolutionary. Tomorrow we will examine more extensive documentation of human-predator interactions, Commander Velther announced. As the display faded, the Coalition Science Division is working to understand the technology or techniques that make these relationships possible. If we can learn to replicate human methods, it could transform our understanding of interspecies cooperation. The second day of xenobiology training began with the same nervous energy that had filled the viewing hall the day before. Zixtara noticed that fewer recruits had chosen seats in the front rows today, most preferring the safety of distance from whatever horrors Commander Velther might show them. The crystalline being settled into her usual spot, her transparent form still dim from the nightmares that had followed yesterday's lesson. Clickers. Clicking sounds seemed more rapid than usual as he took his seat, his compound eyes scanning the room with increased vigilance. The Vertac had spent the night researching the creatures from yesterday's presentation, and the additional information had only increased his anxiety. His species had evolved from prey animals, and every instinct screamed warnings about the predators they were studying. Commander Velther entered the room carrying a datapad that seemed to glow with unusual importance. His multiple arms moved with practiced efficiency as he prepared the day's materials, but there was something different about his demeanor. Where yesterday he had been confident and instructional, today he seemed almost curious, as if he were about to learn something new alongside his students. Today we examine a unique case, Commander Velther announced, his voice carrying a tone of genuine interest. The Coalition has recently made contact with a species from a world designated as Earth. Inhabitants call themselves humans, and they have been accepted as probationary members of our alliance. The holographic display activated, showing a blue and green world that orbited a yellow star. The planet looked peaceful from space, with swirling white clouds and vast oceans that reminded the Murdine recruits of their homeworld. Continents covered in green vegetation suggested a world rich in plant life, which pleased the Silvani students. Earth's classification shows moderate threat level with diverse ecosystem, Commander Velther continued, reading from his datapad. The dominant species shows promising military potential and has already contributed valuable technology to our defense systems. However, our xenobiology department has flagged several concerning species that inhabit this world. Branchellos. Leaves rustled with interest as he swayed closer to the display. His plant-like senses could detect something unusual about the atmospheric readings from this world. The oxygen levels were higher than most inhabited planets, and the carbon dioxide content suggested an extremely active biosphere. The humans have provided us with extensive documentation of their world's fauna, Commander Velther explained. What we discovered has prompted this special session. The creatures you are about to see rival anything we have encountered in known space. The first image appeared on the display, and the room fell silent. A massive creature moved through dark blue water, its torpedo-shaped body cutting through the liquid with effortless grace. The beast's mouth opened to reveal rows upon rows of razor-sharp teeth, each one designed for cutting through flesh and bone. The creature's dead black eyes showed no emotion, only the cold calculation of a perfect killing machine. The Great White Shark, Commander Velther read from his notes. Length up to 6 meters, weight approaching 2 tons. Jaw pressure exceeds 20,000 newtons per square centimeter. Sensory organs can detect electrical fields produced by living creatures from vast distances. Splashara, a breathing apparatus, bubbled frantically as she processed this information. Her aquatic species had encountered nothing like this creature. In their ocean world, the predators of her homeworld were fierce, but they were also small and could be avoided. This monster dominated its entire environment. The display shifted to show the creature in action, launching itself completely out of the water in pursuit of prey. Its massive body defied the laws of physics as it became airborne, jaws snapping. Shut with mechanical precision. The sound of its impact with the water echoed through the room's audio system, causing several recruits to flinch. Note the hunting behavior, Commander Velther continued. The creature approaches from below, using the darkness of deep water as camouflage. Its attack speed can exceed 50 kilometers per hour. Standard defensive protocols would require underwater cities to be built at depths exceeding this creature's normal hunting range. The next creature appeared, and the room's temperature seemed to drop. A massive feline predator moved through tall grass, its orange coat marked with black stripes that created perfect camouflage. The creature's muscles rippled beneath its fur. As it stalked forward, each step placed with absolute silence. Its eyes never left its target, and its entire body spoke of contained violence ready to explode into action. The Bengal tiger, Commander Velther announced. Adult males can reach 3 meters in length and weigh over 300 kilograms. Jaw strength sufficient to crush the spine of large prey animals. Territorial range can extend over 100 square kilometers per individual. Zixtara's crystalline form continued to dim as she watched the predator move. Her species had evolved in environments where threats were obvious, where crystal barriers provided clear protection. This creature could hide in plain sight, its stripes breaking up its outline, until it became nearly invisible among the vegetation. The tiger in the display suddenly burst into motion, covering 30 meters in seconds and bringing down prey 3 times its size. The attack was over before most of the recruits could process what had happened. The creature's precision was terrifying, each movement calculated for maximum efficiency. Hunting success rate exceeds 80%, Commander Velther noted, his voice betraying a hint of admiration. The species demonstrates advanced problem-solving abilities and can adapt hunting strategies based on prey behavior. They have been observed using tools and working together, despite being naturally solitary. More creatures followed in rapid succession. A massive brown bear that could tear through metal with its claws, its bulk moving with surprising speed as it demolished everything in its path. The creature's roar shook the room's speakers, causing the wisp pony near the ceiling to flicker with terror. Wolves appeared next, moving as a coordinated pack through snow-covered terrain. Their howls echoed with primitive communication as they surrounded their prey, cutting off escape routes with tactical precision. Each animal knew its role in the hunt, and they executed their strategy with military discipline. Pack hunters with advanced social structure, Commander Velther explained. Communication systems allow coordination across vast distances. Individual pack members will sacrifice themselves to ensure the success of the group. Intelligence levels approach those of some coalition species. The presentations continued with eagles soaring through mountain peaks, their keen eyes spotting prey from impossible distances before diving at speeds that broke sound barriers. Crocodiles lurked in muddy waters, their prehistoric forms unchanged. For millions of years, because they had achieved perfect killing efficiency, each creature was more impressive than the last. Lions working together to bring down massive prey, their manes flowing as they coordinated attacks with precision timing. Leopards carrying kills twice their size up vertical cliff faces, their strength defying belief. Grizzly bears fishing in rushing rivers, their massive paws snatching salmon from the water with casual ease. The room grew quieter with each presentation. These weren't just predators. They were living weapons that had evolved over millions of years to become perfect killing machines. The diversity was staggering. Aerial predators, aquatic hunters, terrestrial stalkers, pack coordinators, and solitary assassins. Each of these species represents a different evolutionary approach to predation, Commander Velther observed. Earth appears to have developed the most comprehensive collection of apex predators we have encountered. The variety of hunting strategies and environmental adaptations exceeds anything in our current database. Clickter's clicking sounds have become so rapid they merged into a continuous buzz of anxiety. His species had evolved in a world with a single apex predator, and the concept of dozens of different hunting specialists sharing one planet was beyond his comprehension. The final creature appeared on the display, a python nearly 10 meters long, its massive coils crushing prey with hydraulic pressure that could collapse starship hulls. The snake's heat-sensing organs glowed in the thermal imaging, showing how it could hunt in complete darkness by detecting the body heat of its victims. This concludes our survey of Earth's primary predators, Commander Velther announced. Tomorrow, we will review the human military's protocols for dealing with these creatures. I expect detailed analysis of defensive strategies and population control methods. As the display faded, the recruits sat in stunned silence. The creatures they had seen represented a level of predatory evolution that exceeded their worst nightmares. How could any species survive on a world populated by such monsters? The humans must have developed incredible military technology and defensive systems to carve out any kind of civilization. The recruits filed out of the room with new respect for the species called humans. Anyone who could survive alongside such creatures and still develop space travel deserve recognition as warriors. Tomorrow's lesson about human defensive strategies will be the most important class of their military education. In the corridor, whispered conversations asterisk. The massive viewing hall on Station Nexus 7 buzzed with nervous energy as dozens of alien recruits filed through the entrance doors. Zixtara adjusted her crystalline body segments and found a seat near the middle of the room, her transparent form catching the artificial light and casting rainbow patterns on the metal floor around her. The young Kethrali had traveled 3 star systems to reach this moment. Leaving behind the crystal caves of her homeworld for the first time in her life, dot to her left sat a massive VRTAK named Clickter, his insectoid body clicking softly as he settled into his specially designed chair. His compound eyes swept the room constantly, a natural behavior for his species that made other recruits uncomfortable. The clicking sounds he made were his way of mapping the space around him, but many of the other species found the noise disturbing. Behind him, a group of Murdam recruits had claimed the back rows, their aquatic breathing apparatus making soft, bubbling sounds as they processed the station's recycled air. Their blue-green skin glistened under the lights, and they moved with the fluid grace of creatures born in water. One of them, Splashara, kept adjusting her environmental suit with webbed fingers, clearly still adapting to life outside her ocean. Whirled near the front of the room, several Sylvani recruits stood rather than sat, their plant-like bodies swaying gently as they absorbed the artificial sunlight streaming from the ceiling panels. Their leaves rustled softly with each movement, creating a sound like wind through trees. The tallest among them, Broncello, had deep green bark-like skin and branches that moved independently, reaching toward the light sources with obvious need. The diversity in the room was staggering. Representatives from nearly every species in the Galactic Coalition had sent their young to this academy. There were the rock-like granitoids, whose bodies looked like walking boulders but moved with surprising grace. The ethereal Wispani floated near the ceiling, their translucent bodies barely visible except for the soft glow they emanated. Even the rare crystallines were present, their bodies made entirely of living crystal that chimed softly when they moved. Commander Velther entered the room with the confident stride of someone who had seen countless worlds and faced dangers that would terrify most beings. His Rigelian heritage was obvious in his tall, lean frame and the distinctive ridge patterns across his blue-gray skin. Multiple sets of arms moved independently as he prepared his teaching materials, a trait that always fascinated species with only 2 limbs. "Welcome to Advanced Xenobiology," Commander Velther began, his voice carrying easily through the room's acoustic system. "Today we begin what many consider the most important course in your military education, understanding the apex predators of member worlds." A ripple of nervous energy passed through the assembled recruits. Every species represented in the room had their own stories of dangerous creatures, beasts that lurked in their nightmares and shaped their evolutionary development. For the Kethrali, like Zixthara, it was the shadow race that could phase through crystal walls. For the VRTAK, it was the web spinners that could trap entire colonies in their silk. "The galaxy is vast," Commander Velther continued, activating a holographic display that showed the known systems. "And every world we have encountered hosts life forms that have evolved to kill. Your survival as coalition military personnel depends on understanding these creatures, their behaviors, and most importantly, how to avoid becoming their next meal." The display shifted to show the first creature, a massive beast from the Drachmer system. Its segmented body stretched nearly 30 meters in length, with acid-filled sacs visible through its translucent skin. When it moved, corrosive liquid dripped from specialized glands, eating through metal and stone with equal ease. The creature's multiple eyes tracked movement with predatory intelligence, and its mandibles could crush starship hull plating. Several recruits shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Murdung in the back row released stress pheromones that made the air shimmer slightly. Even the normally stoic granitoids showed signs of unease, their rocky surfaces developing small stress fractures. "The Drachmer acid spitter, Commander," Velther explained, highlighting various anatomical features. "Responsible for the destruction of Mining Station Gamma 7 and the deaths of 400 personnel. Note the specialized sensory organs that can detect metal composition from distances of up to 5 kilometers. Standard protocol when encountering this species is immediate evacuation and orbital bombardment." Zixthara's crystalline form dimmed slightly as she processed this information. Her species had always been protected by their homeworld's natural crystal barriers. But out here in the galaxy, such protection seemed inadequate against creatures like this. The next creature appeared on the display, and the room fell silent. The Shenvo pack hunters of the vegan system moved with liquid grace across rocky terrain, their 6 legs carrying them at speeds that defied belief. Their elongated skulls housed brains capable of complex tactical thinking, and their retractable claws could tear through most known materials. Intelligence reports suggest these creatures can coordinate attacks across multiple star systems, Commander Velther noted, his voice taking on a grim tone. They've been observed using captured technology and even operating stolen spacecraft. A single pack eliminated an entire research facility on Vega Prime, leaving no survivors and taking all the equipment. The wisp pawning near the ceiling flickered nervously, their natural luminescence dimming with fear. Their species had encountered similar pack hunters on their homeworld, creatures that could phase between dimensions and strike from unexpected angles. More creatures followed in the presentation. The throne beasts of the Centauri colonies, massive creatures that could survive in the vacuum of space and had been known to attack mining vessels. Their thick hides could deflect most energy weapons, and their massive size allowed them to simply crush smaller ships by ramming them. The void swimmers that lived in the space between stars, feeding on the energy signatures of passing ships. These creatures were nearly invisible to most sensors and could drain a starship's power core in minutes, leaving crews stranded in the cold darkness of space. Each creature was more terrifying than the last. The room grew quieter with each presentation. the initial nervous energy replaced by genuine fear. These weren't just animals to be avoided. They were forces of nature that had shaped the military doctrine of entire civilizations. "Your assignment for tonight," Commander Velther announced as the presentation concluded, "is to study the behavioral patterns of these creatures. Learn their hunting methods, their weaknesses, and the protocols for dealing with each species. Tomorrow we will cover defensive strategies and the specialized equipment used by our military forces." As the recruits began to file out of the room, conversations buzzed with nervous excitement. Groups formed naturally along species lines each, discussing the creatures that remind them most of dangers from their homeworlds. The Vreta clustered together, their clicking sounds creating a rapid-fire communication that sounded like mechanical rain on metal. Zixtara found herself walking alongside Splashara, the Murdoom's breathing apparatus making soft bubbling sounds as they moved through the corridor. Despite coming from completely different environments, both species shared a certain vulnerability that made them natural allies in this diverse group. "My homeworld has creatures like the acid spitters," Splashar gurgled through her translator. "They live in the deep trenches where the water becomes poison. We learned to build our cities far from their hunting grounds. The throne beasts remind me of the crystal crushers on my world," Zixtara replied, her voice creating harmonic tones that translated into standard galactic common. "They break through our strongest barriers and feed on the energy within our crystal formations." As they reached their dormitory levels, both recruits felt the weight of what they were learning. The galaxy was a dangerous place, filled with creatures that could end their lives in an instant. But they also felt a growing sense of purpose. Understanding these dangers was the first step toward protecting their people and their worlds. The station's artificial night cycle began, dimming the lights throughout the corridors. Tomorrow would bring new lessons, new horrors to study and understand. But tonight, the recruits would dream of the creatures they had seen, their minds processing the information and preparing for the challenges ahead. Dotting her quarters, Zixtara settled into her crystal charging pod, her transparent body slowly taking on the soft glow of her species' rest cycle. Outside her window, the stars wheeled slowly past, each one representing a world with its own apex predators, its own dangers waiting to be discovered. The Academy was just beginning to show them how vast and dangerous the galaxy truly was.